All right, we're live. Welcome everyone for joining us for our Q&A with Sadie Rogers and Grace Hahn. We're going to be about their short film, How Is This the World? This film is amazing. We'll get into the discussion. Before I bring them up, I'm going to show a trailer and then we'll just go from there. See you soon. All righty. Yay! Yes. Okay. Sound is good. So thank you guys for joining me for talking about this amazing short film. Yeah. I guess we'll start with what brought you two together, because I know you kind of worked on Princess Sid. I'm not sure if that's how you were introduced to each other, but why don't you share with us how you met?
Yeah. I mean, you're on the money. Do you want to talk about it, Sadie?
Yeah. I was sitting out back during Princess Sid between shoots, and Grace was sitting next to me. I said, "Will you produce my sci-fi short?" And I was like, and she goes, "Yeah." And I was like, "Wait, what?" "Oh, okay." And that was the beginning. It was much cooler than that, but it was.
Yeah.
There was a lot of me sweating and being like, well, I don't know what we're doing tomorrow, but sure. Which is how I get onto projects.
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, well, first of all, I want to point out their scarves. This wasn't planned, I guess, but I love it. In fact, I think I'm going to get a scarf similar and copy you guys, because that's pretty awesome. Yeah, so my next question is for Sadie. This story is so unique, and I'm curious, like, where did it come from?
Yeah. I think so I sort of have this fascination with, maybe it's a little bit from reading William Gibson, but it's mostly just from BSG, Battlestar Galactica, like the concept of, like, if you create something, is it, what means a soul? Like, is it real? So I wanted to make a short about what is it to have these things existing in a virtual reality? Are they stuck? Are they prisoners to our programming, basically? But it started out being a much darker, grittier project about that and the slavery of AIs, and then it became this kind of fairy tale over time, and now it's this lovely sort of dark fairy tale. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot we can unpack with this story, but I'm curious, my next question's for Grace. What kind of drew you to this story?
Beyond it being like I was just on a high of production, I was a recent grad and like saying yes to everything, but my whole deal is I really want to work with cool people and do new things. And so the opportunity to do this pretty ambitious sci-fi short where I didn't necessarily have the background needed, I didn't have a lot of experience doing VFX and what's needed in prep and during the shoot and during post for all of that. Specifically, I was like excited by that idea. And the script has such a Sadie attitude. And I think that like Sadie's work is very adventurous and it's very in its own world. And I really want to help bring Chicago film production into a place where, yes, you can have, the auteur and bring these crazy different worlds to life. That movies here don't have to be the micro budget, dramas that they tend to be. So that just concept was exciting to me, and Sadie's the best.
Yeah, yeah, she is.
Yeah.
So I guess this was going to be a question later, but your casting was so right on. I recognize people from other films, and I love how Chicago filmmakers do this, where they kind of share the same actors. I hope I don't mispronounce her name. Hannah, is that Hannah Corkin? Is that? Yeah. For the character Elise. How did you find her?
Oh, okay. So we were in a movie together like 1,000 years ago called In Memoriam, which I don't think I think is still floating in the ether. It's a Cone early project. We've known each other since then. And then I don't know if she knows this, but I've been going to see her in plays through the years. She's one of the greatest stage actors in Chicago. No joke. Like she's amazing. And she does a lot of TV and stuff too. But like, we just got real lucky there. Like she's amazing. So.
Yeah, that's great. And then I recognized that girl from Knives and Skin, Raven Whitley. That was actually pretty cool to see her in another role, and I really liked Hunter Bryant as well. How did you bring those two together, or to the film?
Feel free to jump in, Grace. I think with Raven and Hunter, they were both recommended to us, and then Hunter did the Indiegogo, right? And that was how I fell in love with him. And then I was like, can you just be our lead? Like, Raven is, we did a coffee date interview. I just was like, I am making this weird short film, and it's there. You don't have any lines, but you get to the ballroom scene. And they're both amazing. I cannot wait to work with them somehow again. And I went to see Knives and Skin at Music Box, before COVID or playing, and it was like so thrilling to see her in something else. Like, so it's the opposite of what because it was just, it was so cool.
And probably worth mentioning too that we had a couple other folks near and dear who we had in mind for both of those roles, Raj and Zoe. And we're both like semi-attached, but then it fell through. So we were like, let's just open up our network and see who comes. And those were two of the, like, luckily, amazingly, those two came to us so easily, I feel like. And they knew one another from working together at DePaul. I think they were both recent DePaul grads. And we're just also in a place to say, yeah, let's do a super cheap sci-fi indie and make it really cool.
Yeah.
And that's so funny you say it was like a super cheap sci-fi, because it didn't look cheap. I mean, you guys did awesome job with like the costumes and the music. Like Sadie, I would just love to know how you put together that I don't know, that blue, was it a blue glow thing? Like when you were doing the singing at the end, like that was just so creative and cool. And, I couldn't help, this is embarrassing, but I just recently saw Rocky Horror for the first time, like a couple of days ago. And it was almost like I was meant to see that at the same time as watching your film, because I really felt like a Rocky Horror vibe. So could you talk to me a little bit about how you put like the costumes together and like the music and kind of the vibe you were trying to put out there for the film?
Yeah. And I do want to say really quickly, Matt, did you recognize Matt from the Wise Kids when you watched Wise Kids?
No, wait, where was, what part?
Yeah, he's the dad in Wise Kids. He's Tyler Ross's dad.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah, he did a great job. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I liked him.
He's amazing.
Yeah, Matt and Hannah are like legend.
Yeah. Great actors. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think twice in quarantine, I've been binging TV and I've seen Matt in shows and I've been like, he's in everything. He's in So to answer your question, I would just say the answer to your question is Kate Grube, and Tiffany Anderson and Amanda Brenton. Like, I basically had the most amazing design team you could ever imagine. And it was my first time working with a design team. And so I was really just, what a way to get to start that. Like, meetings were amazing. Ideas were just all over the place, and in a good way. And Kate had some crazy costume ideas, which are probably like, I mean, just legend, like that bodysuit, the lights going through, the plastic sleeves, like just really unique stuff. I think I told her to think like in the world of like cyberpunk meets like Lord of the Rings meets like, oh gosh, what were all my, I had this all this so long. And then Tiffany stepped in and did makeup for everyone, which is insane. Like, Grace and I talk about this a lot. She didn't have an assistant that day of the ballroom, and she was just over there in the corner, assembly line, doing everyone's face. Like,
wow. Yeah.
I don't remember that whole day, but I just remember the whole time Kate Grube and Amanda Brenton and Tiffany Anderson were on top of their shit the whole day. And I'm like, I credit everything so much to them, particularly the whole, we really did make kind of a gorgeous thing for as little money as that cost. And it's so much credit to them. That's how you trick people. That's how you get the good.
Yeah.
Really team members.
It was a really cool group of people working together that all knew each other through different projects. And then Eon was behind the camera, and I've known Eon for so long. And he's one of my favorite people on earth, and I love working with him. And so he was really fun. You know, he knew he didn't have much time. He knew how to grab what he needed. It was great. And Grace there, like, ADing and producing at the same time. It was a very
wow, that's intense.
That whole day.
Oh my God. And there was just such a happy spirit. And that last scene is so precious to me. Like, I don't know if I could talk about my interpretation, but I mean, it's like one of those things, like, you want people to see the movie, so you don't want to give a lot away. But I was just so touched by that last scene where it was just like full of life and happiness. And, you know, I couldn't help, there was a line that guy, Matt, or whoever was in Wise Kids, he said this line, they really found something. And he was talking about that in the sense that they found a place where they could be happy and joyful, and they could find beauty in their world. And that just made me think of, you know, our youth today, and how during this quarantine crazy time, how they're grasping this beauty, because you can almost see this sci-fi thing becoming reality in a sense. So what are your thoughts about, you know, that kind of spirit you were trying to bring to this film, and just I know you said it was dark, but I felt like it was quite positive as well. So
there was so many things. I work with kids, and I watch them a lot. Through Corona, I've been working with kids online. And I run like tabletop games for kids online, D&D and other stuff like that. And they really, the more immersive a world can be, the more escapism you can allow, the more you can take boredom off the table. However, that comes at a huge price sometimes, right? It comes with something like, I think that the short was kind of about, it comes with addiction. So you can get too into something. I do it with my phone, you know, with Twitter. Like, that's my age version of that. But, like, you know, you're calmer when you're in their kind of world. So I don't know. It's bittersweet for sure. The short definitely turned out much more sweet than I thought it was going to, and I'm so glad it did. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah. And Grace, what was your, I mean, I know Sadie came up with the story, but what was your kind of interpretation or feeling that the films gave you?
Yeah, I think it's like this combination of like feeling like you know a world and then also feeling like you know nothing. And so that combination of like stepping into a project is really interesting. And by that I mean like I grew up, I'm very much like lower millennial. So I grew up with the internet and, you know, computers. And so for me, growing up, part of growing up was having your virtual world. And so in my mind, I was like, yes, this is why I played all those, like I was big, like RuneScape, Neopets kind of person where I was like, man, the internet is just a place where you can just meet anyone. And so I was like, okay, I know this world. I know the escapism of it, and I know what it brings to young people. But at the same time, I grew up in a small town, and, you know, there wasn't much to really engage with beyond that. There wasn't a diversity of people. It was all like you had to go to the internet to find it. So I think Sadie put together something that was a really interesting way to combine those two kind of identities and be like, let's see what I actually do know and what I don't know. So I think that's a cool little adventure.
Yeah, and something I also noticed, I mean, kind of comparing Princess Sid and actually even St. Francis, which are, well, you know, all Chicago films. I noticed that there's a branch from the young people to the old people, and like it's almost like the older, I don't want to say older people, and I noticed the older people always connect in a way to the young people where they're kind of renewed in a sense. I mean, I guess I don't know if that's a Chicago film theme, but I feel like age is being branched over in all these Chicago films. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, either with this film or just like the Chicago filmmaking in general.
I think that's true. I mean, I've never thought about that, but I think that's absolutely true. Do you mean, let me just ask, do you mean in storyline or in production?
I would say in storyline. So I'm new to Steve Cohen's film. I'm going to say that's right, isn't it? Steve Cohen? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yep. Sorry. I'm new to his films, but I, you know, like Wise Kids, you know, I noticed that it was that church, but it was like the older people were you know, connecting with the younger people in different ways, like dealing with like their sexuality and their beliefs and everything, and they were all kind of dealing with the same issues, but on different levels, I guess, with their ages. And Sadie, with your film, I felt like the mom, when she came to that end scene and she saw this like youth, you know, all of these people dancing and joyous, she almost reconnected to her young self. That's what I saw. And then, you know, she the first place she awakes in that virtual world is her high school, which I thought was interesting. Like, so I think maybe that's more an observation than a question, but I think it's interesting that I'm seeing that through films, like lots of Chicago films. So
I think that's really interesting because I definitely have thought about it, but I've never thought about them all together. But now I'm like, yeah. But what's funny about that is we actually had How Is This the World was supposed to end with her looking at her son in heartbreak, and then the camera pulls back and Matt's character is there in a tuxedo and he puts his hand out to dance with her.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it was supposed to be like the children gave her permission to, like, you know, whatever. So it was even more in that realm. But yeah, I definitely think if there's the biggest lesson I've learned in the last couple of years, and I think all of us are constantly learning as we get in like, you know, older, is that you learn more. When you think you're teaching, you're the one learning, you know?
Yeah.
I also think that's a really great observation. It makes me appreciate regional cinema because I feel like that is just a little more inherent in regional cinema than it is like, you know, coastal big productions. And it also is this reminder that like, as much as you want to say like, this is how it is when you're young and this is how it is when you're old and this is how it is when you're in between, it's like kind of, it's all the same. You have the same major concerns and you have the same like major things going for you. It's just a matter of like how you use those things. And I think we really like reminders like that. It's not just about like, oh, you're a teen, you should be thriving and partying. It's like, it's like a mom looking at her son having this crazy raucous time dressed with really funky with a bunch of strangers and being like, maybe this is something that I want too. Like you don't stop wanting that type of thing. So at least on the emotional level. So I think that's what it means to me. And I think that's a great observation.
Yeah, no, and it is interesting. And then my next question is kind of tagged onto that. What do you think makes the Chicago film community, you know, special or stand out and compared to like New York and LA? So I don't know if you guys both want to answer that. Sadie or Grace.
Well, I just think Chicago's the best. I'm so Midwestern and like I grew up in Ohio. I definitely didn't grow up in a city. But there's so much of me that I was able to find here that I was missing before. And I think that's a lot of folks here are transplants, to be totally honest, or people who have watched the city grow and watched themselves grow into who they are. So it's like, it really is actually like a lot of change and a lot of growth, which I guess people don't automatically associate with like regional places and Midwestern cities, since they're not so glamorous or big. But I think Chicago has that going for it, and that adds to the diversity of people here and the diversity of people who want to tell their stories who live here because their stories aren't being told as of now. And at the same time, it's also like we are not a huge city with not a ton of resources dedicated to this industry. So people get real scrappy. And I'm like, that's how I've always been growing up, is like being scrappy, and probably why I get hired for most things, because people are like, I don't have any money, but I want to do this.
Right.
And the ambition to do that is so bold and interesting that I don't think people give, you know, regional artists enough credit. And that's what I found in like everyone that I've worked with here to a certain extent, is like the willingness to put in the effort for this return of maybe not money, maybe not fame, but strength and community and storytelling. Like that really shows where your heart is in the whole thing. So I love the Chicago filmmaking community. And I think it's done some really amazing things and has more diverse, amazing things to do in the future.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I think my background is in the Chicago theater community, which I was in for about almost probably 13 years total, mostly doing black box theater around town and stuff like that. And that community is kind of, I think, world famous for being extremely strong. And throughout that, that's how I met Stephen Cohn, like, you know, years ago. And then I got a great agent and I started doing more film stuff. And the film community that I know now is a mix of people I met 10, 12 years ago, and then people like Grace who have come into meeting in the last few years. And I would say it's like challenging the theater community for being almost as strong. Like it feels, I literally texted Shane Simmons for advice on something like 5 minutes ago, just because, you know what I mean? We all know each other, like we all love each other.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a family, and I intend to keep it that way.
Yeah. No, it's great. And then I also noticed Molly Hewitt from Holy Trinity in the film, and I was just like, that's awesome. I love, the crossovers. It's great. It just makes me really excited because something I've been noticing, after I saw St. Francis and then, your film and Holy Trinity and Princess Sid, is there's this vulnerability and realness that I have not seen on like coastal films. Like it's maybe it's a Chicago thing. I don't know, but I just feel that these films are bringing things to the screen that aren't represented enough in other films. And Sadie, I saw this in your film too, because I love the gender fluidity of that final scene, like everybody, you don't, it's not, this is a girl, this is a boy, this is a bunch of sexualities together and so happy. And I'm seeing that in more Chicago films. And I in a real way that you're like, this is just, I feel these characters as people, not just like caricatures of some kind of sexuality. Like I feel like I love this. So yeah, that's another observation. And I'm curious what's next for this short, because I know a lot of people are probably really eager to see it. So where's this film headed?
We have special streaming news, but we can't share yet.
Okay, but
be
soon
available to watch soon.
Okay,
and you'll hear from us, and we'll be spreading the message because I really want everyone to watch this movie, almost solely for the reason that I think it really stands on its own. It's a really interesting and ambitious short that we made. Like, I'm very proud of us. I think we did something really different, and I think that can be appreciated by a lot of filmmakers who also want to do things that are different.
Yeah, that's great. And then if you could just share with me, and then I'll put this in the comments for everyone. Where can people go to get like the latest on this film? Like social media or website?
Yeah, Instagram. It has its own little at How Is This the World Instagram.
Okay.
And then there's a Facebook page for it too, which I think is the same. How Is This the World? And then you can also follow me and Grace. Okay.
Yeah. Let me just put this in the comment real quick while we're live. So How Is This the World, right? And for IG and Facebook?
Yeah, and then that's me on IG.
Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, let me, sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. I'm not good at doing that. Okay, I will put your handle, Sadie, in the comments. And then what's coming up with you guys in terms of projects? Do you have anything you'd like to share?
Can we give you another handle to put in the...
Yes, yes, what's the next one?
Yeah, Sadie, you take it.
Okay, well, this is, okay. Grace and I are working on a movie, a real movie called Heart of the Trepid. We've been working on it for a while now, right? It's been
at least a year and a half, I think. Which is crazy.
It's kind of my baby, and I am so excited about it, Rebecca. Like it's about D&D.
Okay.
And it's a sort of drama comedy fantasy piece that will hopefully shoot here in Chicago. And we've been slowly building up our crew and just, putting feelers out. And yeah, I mean, very excited about it. And that's
great.
Yeah.
So is this a short or a feature or,
This is a feature-length project.
Wow, that's exciting!
Yeah,
that's so
cool. Feature directorial debut.
Nice.
Super cool.
Yeah.
And I think in line with some of the stuff that we've been talking about, I really think it represents a lot of what we want. We do want the Chicago community to we want to push the boundaries a little bit, because this, again, is an ambitious project. But I also think it has the capacity to hold exactly the type of like vulnerability that you were talking about that we found in this sci-fi housing world. And also like these super fun elements that I think a lot of nerds and non-nerds who play D&D, because so many people are involved in this kind of fantasy world, will really appreciate.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask a really, I probably should ask you guys off the air, but this is D&D's Dungeons and Dragons, right? And okay. I'm a huge nerd, but not that kind of nerd, so I don't know. I don't know the terminology.
You might be a D&D nerd soon.
Okay.
When you go in, it becomes a part of your life.
Okay, yeah. I need a new hobby, so this could be great. But yeah, now, was there anything else you guys, we've come to time, was there anything, last thing that you wanted to say about the film or anything else?
I feel like this was a great conversation, and I really appreciate you watching it. And like I said, it's going to be available for the masses soon. So we'll be pushing that. Sadie, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I so great to talk to you. And I'm so excited to announce where we're streaming, and we will soon. And then I have some of my older shorts on my Vimeo page if you ever want to kind of check those out. And please do follow Heart of the Trepid. It's going to be a raucous ride, and yeah, we're very excited.
Yay! Well, this has been a pleasure, and I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving, because that's coming up. A safe quarantine style Thanksgiving. So depressing, but it'll be good. I'm watch lots of movies. It's a good time to watch movies. So always a good time, actually. So enjoy your holidays, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, and likewise.